الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء. تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووصم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم. كما قال عز شأن: كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت. وقال: كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات. سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه. يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء. تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفوه تفضل. ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين. من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقا. وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وأروة وثقى. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحن قسمنا بينهم معيشتهم في الحياة الدنيا ورفعنا بعضهم فوق بعض درجات. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Continuing with the khutbah of Nahj al-Balagha number 193, known as the khutbah which is describing the sifat of muttaqeen. We talked about the first part of this khutbah where Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he started discussing the attributes of muttaqeen, we went into the details of explaining how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as far as the ibadat is concerned, is the only one which is worthy of being worshipped. And as far as the creation is concerned, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, definitely being Hakim, has a purpose for the creation of insan. So we talked about different verses. We mentioned last time 4 or 5 verses establishing as to what was the purpose behind the creation, and we posed a few questions. And we ended where we were talking about وَأَنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى, that everyone shall return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just lastly, these were some of the proofs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives as far as the reason behind the creation is concerned. And some of them were the middle reasons or causes. Some of them were ghayatul ghayat, or the last, or the premier ghayat and the reason behind the creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established. First ayah talks about the knowledge and ma'rifat alongside with the power of Allah. As knowledge increases, the actions get more and more sincere. Second ayah refers towards the ibadat to be the reason of creation, since ibadat is a class of tarbiyat, where insan goes through this ibadat, this worship, as if he's attending a course or taking a class, and this is a tarbiyat which is being done. This is why Amir al-Mu'mineen says, كَم مِّن صَاعِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِن صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالظَّمَأُ. He says, many of those who fast get nothing except hunger and thirst out of their fasting. So fasting itself is basically a course that insan takes and goes through a whole month of Ramadan through this course and attaining attributes and coming out on top of his nafs. We see these were some of the attributes, and God is infinite existence, and for more we think about Him, the better our ibadat will get. In the end, this ibadat will lead towards the proper ma'rifat. وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that you may reach the level of certainty. So at this stage, a person might ask, says, well, you said you should have ma'rifat before you perform this ibadat. Now that I'm performing this ibadat more and more, now you're saying you reach a level of ma'rifat after this ibadat. So what is that? Am I going into a circle? There was ma'rifat needed before I started worship. Now that I have started worshiping, now you're saying it is increasing my ma'rifat. How is it possible that one thing which was the prelude to this other thing now becomes a prelude itself for this thing which is being mentioned again? Ma'rifat, ibadat, and then ma'rifat. It is very simple to understand it from an example, like a minor investment that any individual makes. What is the purpose behind this minor investment? So that he could have gains at the end of the day. When you have these gains at the end of the day, for example, you invested some money, $1,000, and you had gains, let's say $5,000, this leads to bigger investment. So you invested first to get bigger gains, and then now you invest even more. The same way, you had this ma'rifat, you performed this ibadat, which was a gain. After this ibadat that you have attained, you reach another higher level of ma'rifat. And so your ibadat will even increase the same way this investment is increasing. So these were some of the reasons that we had explained as far as the reason behind the ibadat was concerned. Today, the ayah that I had recited, which is from Surah Zukhruf, verse number 32, it says, "It is we who have distributed their sustenance in the world and raised the positions of some of them above the others." Second part of the khutbah, which Amir al-Mu'mineen discusses in this khutbah Muttaqeen, number 193, he says, فَقَسَمَ بَيْنَهُمْ مَعَايِشَهُمْ وَوَضَعَهُمْ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا مَوَاضِعَهُمْ. It just correlates with the verse that I recited in the beginning of the khutbah. Imam says he has distributed among them their livelihood and has assigned them their portions in the world. Just correlating with the verse that I had recited. The second part of this khutbah, or the second segment of this khutbah, is talking about after the creation of insan. Khutbah Muttaqeen is discussing the concept of rizq as far as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided the sustenance, and He has portionally, or He has divided this into as far as the shares of every individual is concerned. We see there's a difference between Allah and the others. Allah gives, and He gives according to our needs. Not too much and not too little. Just as much as it is required. Sometimes you and I might look at it and turn around and say, no, I don't get enough, and it's not enough for me to survive. Or someone might be getting more than what they deserve, but this is how we have to, inshallah, we will try and explore this concept, and we will get through it today in this khutbah to talk about what does it really mean when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He has divided all the sustenance among the people according to the way He wishes. We look at a mother's too much love for their baby could be devastating, and too little love can also lead towards calamities. So mother sometime out of her love towards the child would feed her or feed him too much that could lead to devastation. At the same time, a mother's lack of love or lack of attention towards the child could also be devastating towards this child or this infant. God placed everyone according to His wisdom. One in poverty, another in surplus. One at ease, another in distress. One in restriction, another beyond limits. All this is actually mentioned in Quran. Amir al-Mu'mineen is just taking the essence of the verse that I recited and is mentioning it in his own words. The amazement of the world of sustenance. Let's go into this topic, inshallah, within the next 8 or 9 minutes. I will try and see how much I can get far. If we can't, inshallah, we'll discuss this next week. The discussion has a few points which are worth mentioning. First, edibles on the face of the earth, although it seems like, it's limited, will never end because Allah has distributed it among the people in a way that it will be utilized for millions of years and it still will not run out. Have you ever thought about this phenomena? That people have been living for so many years, things are being produced on the same earth and are being discarded on the same earth, yet it still does not run out of it. It still is producing and is providing. The same way the water, which replenishes every now and then. Ways of attaining the sustenance is different for different creations. We see some plants attain their food from water, from land, from sea, some from air, and some from other plants. Animals that live under sea, we know that sun rays do not reach below 600 to 700 meters, and that after that it's all darkness under the sea. And so how does the creatures which live all the way in the bottom of the ocean, how do they receive their sustenance? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides. How does He provide? Some birds eat fish, some fish eat birds, some animals eat herbs, and some plants eat animals. We should be thankful to those whales which eat up the dead fish so that it does not reach the humans, or otherwise if we were to go ahead and consume them, it could be devastating for us. So this is all part of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And some whales after eating come to the seaside and open their mouth. And some birds eat out of between what is stuck between their teeth. And they don't close their mouth until these birds have eaten every last bit, work as toothpick for them because they don't really have these hands or other things to go ahead and toothpick their, things that are stuck in between their teeth. Even they are so careful about cleaning their teeth that they come and they open their mouth and they leave it open until each and last every bird comes and plucks something from between their teeth and goes away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing food even for those whales, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing food for these birds which are coming and doing the job of cleaning the teeth of these whales in a manner. Insan, we can divide insan is fed in 3 different periods. One, before the birth, obviously is in a congested area, drinks from the blood of the mother or whatever is in the surrounding in the womb of the mother. After birth, since he has no teeth, lives on milk for a while because there's no digesting system to accept hard food. Third period would be enjoys food from different types and different kinds, all the edibles that he can enjoy, except living into what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made legitimate and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made forbidden for him. So we see even some people who are at this stage are unable to enjoy all types of food because of the conditions that they're in. Our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam over here, in a hadith to Mufaddal says, O Mufaddal, ponder over things which are placed in insan, from eating, sleeping, and the carnal desires. Allah has made incentives for all of these in insan. Hunger directs him towards food, which provides livelihood and support. Exhaustion leads toward one to fall asleep, which provides comfort, and then obviously rejuvenation after the sleep. And carnal desires lead towards, sexual interactions, which provides continuation and existence of insan. So ponder over these 3 things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So is sustenance distributed? Going back to the point that we had raised initially. Some verses, like the verse in Surah Zukhruf, points out that sustenance is distributed among the people, and Allah has the duty of providing to everyone and everything. In Surah Hud, He says, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. He said, there is no living creature on earth that does not receive sustenance from God. Other verses indicate the increment and decline of sustenance. Surah Rum, verse number 37 states, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَقْدِرُ. He says, have they not seen that God increases the livelihood of whomever He wants and determines His share? Have they not seen it? Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha, another sermon number 91, mentions the same thing in different words. He says, وَقَدَّرَ الْأَرْزَاقَ فَكَثَّرَهَا وَقَلَّلَهَا وَقَسَّمَهَا عَلَى الضِّيقِ وَالسَّعَةِ. He ordained livelihoods with plenty and with paucity. He distributed them narrowly as well as profusely. So this is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works, the way He has created. This is His wisdom. So question over here, if this is the case, then going after livelihood and sustenance has no meaning, or does it? Should we strive to go after our sustenance? Or if this is the case that Allah has already written this much for us, we should just be content and we should now work harder to get more? What is the answer? By placing all the mentioned verses and ahadith, we can deduce that purpose of sustenance from Allah and its distribution means that He's providing the basis, which is normally not comprehensible by insan, internally or externally, which means even if insan sit idly, he would receive sustenance from somewhere. But this is not something which is encouraged. Allah will still provide for those people, and He provides for all of those people in the world who are unable to do anything. Yet still they're receiving their sustenance. But this is not the case over here. Allah provides for the basics, but then you have to go after whatever it is share available for you. For example, the salary of the workers in a company is prescribed by the owner of the company. He doesn't say everybody gets the equal share. No. Different people, different posts, different grades, different ranks, they receive according to what they do. One should also notice that some people try very little and reach bigger gains, and some people try very hard but don't reach as much as they would have liked. But this is not qaida kulli, a universal law. This is obviously an exception that, obviously we understand that there's someone hakim above us. We're not just responsible. We're not all of us dealing over here without someone above us not looking after. So the above mention is only an exception. Generally speaking, usually the one who strives is awarded more by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Prophet says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ الرِّزْقَ رِزْقَانِ فَرِزْقٌ تَطْلُبُونَهُ وَرِزْقٌ يَطْلُبُوكُمْ. He says, let it be known, sustenance is of two types. Sustenance which you go after, and sustenance which comes after you. So there are two types of food. You can either go after something to earn, and then there will be some share that will be coming towards you. And this is where we see that a lot of time we're given from places that we have never even thought of. Many places, many times, we receive something from somewhere which we would have never thought that we will receive something, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows us from there. Prophet said, therefore seek sustenance from halal and ask it from the proper source. Then you have eaten halal. And if it is sought from haram source, then obviously you have eaten haram. There's a whole section in Mustadrakul Wasail in regards to Tibul Maksab, the sustenance as far as how the sustenance should be, and halal earning. There's a whole chapter which has been dedicated as far as this chapter is concerned. Another place, our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, he said, Atib kasbaka tustajab da'watuka. This is where our aqidah comes in. This is where our beliefs comes in. Those people who are close to the aqaid and the aqidat, as far as some of the beliefs are concerned, they will enjoy this. Why? Because it is related to our daily practices. It says, Atib kasbaka tustajab da'watuka. فَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ يَرْفَعُ اللُّقْمَةَ لَفِي حَرَامًا فَمَا تُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ دَعْوَةٌ 40 يَوْمًا. Prophet said, purify your earning and your supplications will be answered. Indeed, a person who consumes one haram morsel, his du'as will not be answered for 40 days. We had heard this hadith in regards to alcohol or other things. Here, Prophet is mentioning even one haram luqma, one haram morsel will lead towards the unacceptance of du'as for 40 days. So just imagine, those people, as I said, those who have the aqidat in these regards, taking care of halal and haram. Inshallah, everybody cares for halal and haram. But those who have aqidat as far as the du'as is concerned, Allah, why my du'as aren't being answered? Some of the reasons are hidden in some of the actions that we do. Our du'as are not appropriate sometimes. That's one of the reasons. It's not always that you're consuming haram and so your du'a is not being answered. No, sometimes our du'as are not even appropriate when we're making these du'as. For example, someone gave an example. A child came home from school after taking an exam. He went into his room and he started making dua. Oh Allah, bring Himalayas into Africa. Oh Allah, bring Nile River to the Europe. His mother heard this dua, came in, knocking the door. She's like, what are you doing? You're making dua, Himalayas in Africa, Nile in Europe. What's going on? He said, that's what I wrote in my exam. Now I'm making dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it happen so that what I have written would become correct. So sometimes our du'as are in this fashion as well. We're making du'as for the things that we're just hoping it would be that way. Question, if the sustenance of every person is prescribed, then why so many people have died out of hunger? All of these questions are something which we could be posed with when we are presenting this sort of presentation in front of those. Obviously we're inviting towards deen haq. Answer is prescribing the sustenance doesn't mean bringing it to the door of the person and putting it into their mouths. That's why you see a lot of people in the world die because they don't even make even smallest of the move. And I'll mention another fact about people, especially that part of the world where we see are dying of famine and are dying of hunger on a regular basis. One example from Quran, inshallah we will conclude with it, that Hazrat Maryam salamullah alayha is in a very tough conditions of labor. When she was in labor pain, when she reaches near a tree, Allah provides for her through the dates of the tree and asks her to shake the tree and the trunk of the tree so that the dates would fall. She's in such pain that none of us can imagine. Women can imagine that pain. And she's sitting at this place right outside of the city under, a tree. And she's saying, I wish I had, died before this had happened to me. And this is where, the baby inside Hazrat Maryam, Hazrat Isa says, فناداها من تحتها ألا تحزني قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا وحزي إليك بجذع النخلة تساقط عليك رطبا جنيا. Then she heard the baby saying, do not be sad. Your Lord has caused a stream to run at your feet. If you shake the trunk of the palm tree, it will provide for the fresh, ripe dates. Even in those tough conditions, I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, provide for Janab Maryam. Why do you have to ask her to go ahead and do something? No. If even Janab Maryam, her ismat, and then even the son of Janab Maryam, Hazrat Isa, in her womb, still she has to do something before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for them. And so therefore we understand how the reason sometimes we see and we hear that people are dying out of hunger, it doesn't mean that Allah brings the morsel and puts it into their mouth. It requires some amount of work from these individuals. Inshallah, we will continue the other aspects of this khutbah in the weeks to come. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us the food or provide us the sustenance in the most halal manner possible. Oh Allah, give us the food, give us the sustenance from your choicest of the sustenance that is out there. Oh Allah, let us also make this dua for those people who are suffering in the world, who are still working towards difficulties as far as getting to even one meal a day. And let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide for those less fortunate people in the world as well. Inna ahsan al-hadith wa ablagh al-maw'idha kitabullahi a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.